What's up, everyone out there? It's Bran here from Bloody Breakdown, and we're gonna be doing something I've been personally wanted to do for all year now, which I guess is what 11 days at this point. So yeah, what we're gonna do here is I recently made a video talking about my favorite horror movies of 2018, so I figured it would kind of be fitting to talk about some things that are coming out in 2019 in the horror genre that I'm excited about, that I'm hyped about, and we'll talk about some other movies too that I really don't know much about, just kind of throwing out some information out there for all you horror fans as far as what you can expect from the year of 2019 as far as the horror genre goes. With that said, we did just a moment ago briefly hit on 2018, and what a year 2018 was for the horror genre. I mean, let's be honest, there were some things happen this year in horror that I mean, it completely took me out of left field. Halloween, for example, making the amount of money that it made, and it has really kind of lit a fire under the ass of Hollywood as far as slasher goes. I think we're kind of getting to the point now, and I'm fully on board with this, by the way, where we're moving away from the supernatural ghost story, paranormal activity, conjuring horror, and we're kind of getting back into the slasher genre. Now, some people out there may not be excited about that. I am literally shitting kittens as far as that goes. I just quickly want to shout out the folks who are already in the live chat with me: Andy, Cody, Red. What's going on, everyone? Appreciate you all joining me here. So, you know, with 2018 being such a big year, I think 2019's got some shoes to fill, some really big shoes to fill. So with that said, I see no reason why we can't jump right in, other than I'm going to do a quick little bit of shilling before we get started. So guys, if you do enjoy the content that I'm putting out here on Bloody Breakdown, I enjoy it. I'm a huge horror fan. But if you enjoy it, feel free to leave me a like. Give me a like on this video. Subscribe and ring the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And yeah, check the description section, guys, because there are a couple of ways to support what I'm doing here on Bloody Breakdown. My Patreon is up. I've got a couple of different tiers where you can reap the benefits, the rewards of supporting this channel. Also, there is our Honey link down below. You can install it. It's a web browser add-on. It's not going to give you any kind of virus or malware or anything like that. Essentially what it does is it's a Honey app that kicks in when you're going to make any kind of online purchase, whether it be buying something off Amazon or perhaps even ordering a pizza online. It kicks in. It saves you money, gives you the best possible deal. So essentially, with that one, if you don't have the money to contribute to the Patreon, you can do this absolutely free. And not only are you supporting Bloody Breakdown, but you're saving money in the process. Also, the link to our Amazon wish list is down below. And basically what that does is helps us with some tech, maybe upgrade some things, just improve the overall quality of the channel. And also, guys, all of our social media links are down below. So if you want to check us out on Twitter, Instagram, join the Facebook group, all that's down below. So without further ado, done with the shilling. I see everyone's coffeeing up in the chat. So let's go ahead and jump right in, guys. Let's talk about what 2019 is going to be bringing us in the way of horror. And first, I want to go ahead and start off with a film that comes to us from the same studio that Halloween did last year. And this isn't anything new. It is a sequel, but it is a sequel that I'm very interested in seeing. I'm speaking, of course, of Happy Death Day to You. So, what do we know? We do know that this movie is going to be released on Valentine's Day, so a little over a month away, February the 14th, 2019. I think everyone remembers what this film is, what it was about. In my opinion, I call it the Groundhog Day of horror. So I'm reading a quick little blurb here about the film. It says, this sequel to 2017's surprise hit Happy Death Day sees poor Tree, played by Jessica Roth, getting stuck back into the vicious time loop that has her dying on repeat in order to solve who's behind the babyface mask. So essentially, we're going to get a sequel to another Blumhouse movie. I quite frankly thought that this movie was uh, it was a surprise for me. I wasn't quite as well introduced to Blumhouse at the time. I had seen Get Out. I thought that was an amazing horror film. I thought it was really good work. I knew they had done some things with Paranormal Activity. You know, I saw a few horror films here and there from Blumhouse, but I don't think it was until Happy Death Day that I really got the picture that this is what Blumhouse wants to do, because they had created some other non-horror genre films. And honestly, I kind of figured they'd be just like every other movie studio. They're going to put out some things that are, you know, a little of this, a little of that. I think it was around the time Happy Death Day came out where I was like, you know, these guys are really, they've gotten down to brass tacks here. They know what they want to do, and they're doing it. Between Get Out and Happy Death Day and Paranormal Activity and several of the other films they had put out, by this time, I knew what they were doing, and I really had a lot of faith in them. Obviously, that faith went full circle whenever Halloween did so well. And I do. I think it's a fantastic idea to not only create original films, original ideas as they've done with Get Out and Happy Death Day, but to also get the rights to some of these old franchises that desperately need life breathed into them. And Halloween was one of them. You know, it had been quite a while since I think we had seen a really good back-to-basics, down-and-dirty Halloween film. And they did a fantastic job with it. And here we are. Cody says, perfect for Valentine's. Exactly. You know what? I've kind of almost, I think at this point, all but converted my wife into a horror fan. And it did take some doing. I don't think she's really one of these people that completely dislikes horror. But I do recall very early on in our relationship, when we had first moved in with each other, I do recall going to sleep, watching The Exorcist, and waking up, and the Disney Channel was on. So she was a bit of a scaredy cat at first, to be perfectly honest. But I think I've convinced her that this is a genre worth taking a look at. So yeah, it could be a potential Valentine's Day date. And if my wife is out there and she hears that, she's probably either at least somewhat excited or regretting marrying me. But either way, yeah, Happy Death Day. I'm excited for it. We reviewed the trailer here not too long ago. I think it was maybe a month or so ago, and I did get hit with a copyright strike, by the way, and it wasn't for 50 cents in the club. It was the trailer itself. So in case you're wondering why I haven't jumped on a lot of these horror trailers recently, that's why. I'm going to have to try to find a way to not get hit with copyright strikes every time I watch a trailer that is like an inch-long box in the video. So yeah, we're going to be trying some other things there, but Happy Death Day to you. This is a movie I honestly didn't think we'd be getting a sequel to, not because it wasn't good, but because it's kind of hard to come up with an idea, I think, to get this film going for a sequel. But after watching the trailer, after seeing that whatever this is kind of incorporating all of our friends now, it seems more like a slasher now with a cast that the cast of characters all are up for grabs. They're all in danger. I think they're upping the ante with this one, and I'm quite frankly ready to check it out. Cody in the chat says, surprised they haven't done a sequel to My Bloody Valentine yet. And you know what? I'm kind of on board with you there. They did a remake with Tom Adkins and a couple of other people. What was it, like 2009 or so? And, you know, typical of remakes, it didn't quite live up to the original. I didn't think it was absolute garbage or anything, but, you know, it wasn't really anything special. So, you know, that would be interesting. I wish on my list here of 2019 horror movies I had, you know, something with My Bloody Valentine, because I think you're onto something, Cody. It's a franchise that I don't think has quite capitalized on what it's capable of. But you know what? You never know. I guess we'll see. So up next, what I want to talk about, and this one is a direct result, in my opinion, of the success of Halloween. So I think, you know, they can thank Blumhouse for this, and that is Child's Play. Now, I'm going to, you know, there's kind of a contention here between what MGM is doing with this remake that I'm about to be discussing and what Don Mancini and his group are doing, continuing the original story into the realm of the silver screen on TV and even the promise of future films. So the contention is there's that timeline, which is still very much active, and this one, which is rebooting the franchise. This is a remake of the original. And there's a little bit of animosity, I think, not only between the fans, but also the fact that, I guess the studios, the people that are involved in making these films, to be quite honest with you, it is something that, you kind of look at MGM and you go, you know what, that it really doesn't seem like maybe it's the right time to do this. But at the same token, they're doing things a little bit differently with this remake, and we can already tell they're going more on the side of AI, artificial intelligence, gone awire with its programming instead of the voodoo, soul-possessed doll of Chucky. So it is going to be a bit different. And to be perfectly honest with you, I am going to sit back. I'm not going to take a side on this whole, child's play beef, so to speak. I'm interested to see what MGM is bringing to the table with this remake. I'm interested to see what Don Mancini and David Kirshner and his people from the original series, I'm interested to see what they're going to be doing. No doubt, definitely. But I'm a fan of the franchise regardless. So I'm going to check it out. It comes out 2 days before my birthday, June 21st, 2019. And here's a little blurb that was written about that. It says, at first glance, it seems the only real update in this remake is that Chucky is now Buddy. And I am not 100% certain about that, to be honest with you. The boxes do say Buddy. However, in the original, the boxes were, what are they called? Good guys. So, it's still very possible that this doll could end up being called Chucky. I haven't seen, if anyone's in the chat and you see or you've heard something to the contrary to what I'm saying, always feel free to correct me. I definitely won't take it as an insult. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'd like to give you guys the absolute best possible information that I can. But it says, a high-tech doll for the modern era that has voice recognition, English language comprehension, and a different origin story than serial killer Charles Lee Ray. Aubrey Plaza stars as a single mother Karen Barkley, so they're keeping that name, and Andy, by the way, who gives her son the doll, Andy, by the way, for his birthday. And if it turns out that this isn't much more than a modern update, we still do have the TV series upcoming, and that's pretty much the end of that little blurb as far as what they have to say about that. Here's the thing. Like I said earlier, I'm a fan of this franchise. I'm going to check out both. I'm going to definitely be checking out the TV show, and hey, that's big praise coming from me because I don't really watch much TV. Aside from The Walking Dead, I really can't think of much I actually watch as far as current television shows. So I think that speaks volumes. And as far as my birthday present goes, we were talking just a minute ago about the potential of a Valentine's Day date to go check out Happy Death Day 2D. 2D, what the hell am I talking about? 2U. I think this is a damn good birthday gift. I think I'm going to go, even if I'm treating myself, I'm going to go check this out in theaters. So yeah, I'm interested to see it. And, it's one of those things, like I said earlier, I think Halloween really lit a fire under the ass of a lot of different companies, production companies in Hollywood, that saw the potential that the slasher genre has again. And if we end up going back to the heyday of the 80s and the early 90s, potentially even the late 70s of slasher horror, I will be the happiest person on earth. Cody says, I'm just keeping an open mind with remakes and reboots. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go. Because at any point in time, yeah, sure, you could get the typical horror remake that is either shot for shot or so out of left field that it just doesn't hold up to the original. Or you could get Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 2003 with Jessica Biel, which was a fantastic remake. You could get Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead, another fantastic remake that, in my opinion, improved the characters from the original. And that's not to say anything bad about, Romero. But, my personal opinion, there are really good horror remakes out there. Granted, they may not be, there may not be quite as many as some of the bad ones, but they're there. So, just something to take in mind. So yeah. With that said, Child's Play on the horizon. Friday the 13th is in a bit of a legal dilemma right now. There's no telling when we're going to get a new one of those. But I think that this is only the beginning of this slasher resurgence. I think you're going to be seeing more from Jason, more from Freddy, definitely more from Michael after they see the power that franchise still has. And, I'll be honest with you. As much as I like to see these old franchises coming back and doing new things and getting back to basics and getting back to actual being what they are, horror movies, building tension, building suspense, I'd also love to see new faces to the slasher genre arise. So, not just rehashing things we've already done, which is good, which can be good. Let me say that, can be good. But bringing some new, fresh faces to the table. So, yeah. James Self-Standard in the chat. He says, I find some reboots and remakes as a good tribute. No, none of it will be the original or not all of it will be good, but they are made with good intentions. Excuse me. Yeah, it is, at the end of the day, I think a lot of these films are good tributes to the original. Even if they do them slightly differently, put their own spin on it, I don't know if I can agree they're all made with good intention. And I'll tell you why. Some of these films are pumped out with no other goal in mind than to cash in on a already popular franchise. And but I think the films will reflect that when you watch them. When you watch the film, it is very easy to tell, especially if you're like me, if you're a fan of the genre, if there was any actual effort and, put into it. I hate to keep going back to Halloween, but I got to again. You can tell Danny McBride writing that film and David Gordon Green that they were fans of the original, that they understood what made that movie work. And they put that forth in the new film that we saw just a few months ago. So, I guess with that said, we'll go ahead and move on. I got to pull up another little article here. This one is not a sequel. It is not a remake. It is something completely different. I am talking about Ari Aster's new film, and I don't have any kind of artwork for this because it's still hasn't even released any kind of teaser posters, but we're talking about Midsommar. So this is Ari Aster's follow-up. Not a sequel, but his follow-up to the hit film that just came out last year, Hereditary. And holy shit. Hereditary was one of my absolute favorite horror films of last year. It, in my opinion, does what The Witch tried to do, and it pulls it off. The movie is a bit of a slow burn. I speak of Hereditary. But when it hits you with these big moments, it hits you hard and fast. I absolutely loved it. I thought that the cinematography and the writing, the dialogue, the characters, I thought it was fantastic. I really cannot get enough of that film. I'll watch it anytime it's placed in front of me. So basically, we don't know much about this one, but given the work that Ari Aster did in Hereditary, I'm already hooked. Just because he's back in the chair to direct horror again. So, little blurb I have here in this article about Midsommar is, it says, what begins as a summer road trip movie for a young woman and her boyfriend turns into an absolute nightmare as the couple falls prey to a pagan cult in Sweden. So yeah, it's Ari Aster's immediate follow-up to Hereditary. So that's really all we know about it at this point in time. There's not a whole lot of information out there, but we do know that this movie will be coming out. It will be hitting theaters in 2019. And to be honest with you, just that little bit, all you got to tell me, And, you know, maybe you can call me a fanboy. That's fine. I'll accept that. But if you tell me Ari Aster is directing a new horror movie this year, I'm on board. I'm on board. But the people you see on screen here are people that have already been cast for the film. I don't have all the information pulled up in front of me right now. But I'll be honest with you. This is something that I'm definitely going to be into. And if you want to talk about something that I'm going to be into, you want to talk about something that has been a long time coming, let's talk about it. Zombieland 2, ladies and gentlemen. You know, this channel is not only just for horror, but all kinds of horror. That includes horror comedy. So, Zombieland 2, ladies and gentlemen. How in the hell can you not be excited for this film? The original Zombieland is, I'd already go ahead and say, a horror comedy classic. Between Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead, hard to pick what's the better zombie comedy film. But here we go. I got a little article, a little blurb, as I've been saying, on Zombieland 2. It will be coming out this year, and the date has already been confirmed as October 11th. So right around Halloween time, we're going to have some pretty good horror movies coming out. So it says 10 years after the first film, we finally get a sequel. The core cast returns, along with director Ruben Fleischer. This time, Wichita, Little Rock, Tallahassee, and Columbus have to contend with growing pains within their makeshift family, new survivors, and evolving zombies. So I just read an article the other day. Not only will Bill Murray be making another cameo in this film, even though he died in the last one, so I don't know what they're gonna do with that. And I see James is pretty excited about that. Hey, you and me both, man. Not only is Bill Murray gonna be doing something in Zombieland 2, this is gonna be somewhat of a Ghostbusters reunion. Because I also read an article that Dan Aykroyd is going to be doing something. It may be, probably a limited capacity, a cameo or something like they did with Bill Murray in the first film. But Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd are going to be making some kind of appearance in this film as well. So, I mean, already a stellar cast from the first movie. They're all going to be coming back. Bill Murray's back. Dan Aykroyd's going to be in this to some degree. So, holy shit is all I have to say about this. This is going to be amazing. I can't wait for it. Like I said, the first one, fantastic. And like Cody said, two legends, yes. As a horror fan, especially a horror comedy fan, how could you not be excited about a Zombieland 2 featuring two out of the Ghostbusters? I mean, this is a horror comedy's orgasm come true. Let's be perfectly honest about this. And I see Frustrated Atheist in the chat here. What's up, man? Welcome. I'm excited too. Excuse me. Zombieland was one of those films that another film I never thought we were going to get a sequel to. Never thought we'd get a sequel to it. Just because of some of the big names, and even, Woody Harrelson's a big name, obviously, but some of the other names have gotten big since that film. Maybe they weren't to that degree when the movie came out, but they've gone and done big things. James says, personally, Shaun of the Dead bored me. Really? Oh man, that hurts me to my core. It's such a funny movie. I don't know. I've heard people say that they don't sometimes really click with quote-unquote British comedy, like maybe Monty Python and things of that nature. I'm kind of on the fence about it. Like, some Monty Python stuff is really entertaining. Some of it maybe not so much. But yeah, like Frustrated Atheist said, Simon Pegg's hilarious. Nick Frost, those guys. Fantastic stuff from them. But like I say, Zombieland is going to get the opportunity to check it out. So October the 11th, guys. Make sure you mark your calendars down. But we're going to jump back into the realm of remakes here as we now talk about one that's got a lot of people excited. I recently ran a poll on my Twitter asking horror fans, what remake in 2019 are you looking forward to the most? And this one won by a landslide. Talking about Pet Sematary. So yeah, this one, another classic, guys. The original I speak of. Pet Sematary is one of those movies, obviously for a while. We got Pet Sematary, we got Pet Sematary 2 with like Edward Furlong. That one is definitely split. Some people think it's a really good movie. Some people think it's absolute garbage. I think it's all right. I think it's a decent enough follow-up. Sometimes sequels, they can't live up. But I think at least if you can see that effort coming through, that means a lot to me. So Pet Sematary, that's going to be coming out April the 5th. So we're less than 3 months away from this one. So I got a little blurb here about that one. It says, one of Stephen King's scariest novels gets a new adaptation. The Creed family will discover that sometimes dead is better when they move to a rural home along a dangerous, busy road and tragedy strikes. So it says the director the directors. Apparently there are 2 directors attached to this film. It says they're serious Stephen King fans, and we can expect them to bring something new and different to the story than the '89 adaptation. So it's going to have Jonathan Lithgow, Jason Clarke, and Amy Seimetz. I'm not really too familiar with her, so excuse me if I butchered that last name. But yeah, this is another one that I'm really looking forward to. The dirt bike kill in Pet Sematary 2 gets me every time. Yeah, man. Thank you, Brian, and welcome to the stream, by the way. I don't know, man. I kind of feel like Pet Sematary 2 sometimes maybe gets a little bit more shit than it deserves. That, and I am a fan of Edward Furlong's work, even though you really don't see that much anymore. But I love Terminator 2. I love Brain Scan. So I like a lot of the stuff he did. Yes, having... First Rated Atheist says, yes, having Stephen King fans, they will do it justice, hopefully. Yeah, I know, right? Anytime there's a Stephen King adaptation, it's always interesting to see what exactly is going to make it in and what isn't. Take It, for example. The 2-part made-for-TV series they did back in 1990. I was like 3 years old when that happened. So, obviously I didn't get to enjoy that until a little bit later on. I think maybe 10 or 11, I think is the first time I remember checking that out. And then I read the book later on in high school, and I was like, hey, where's this floating celestial turtle in the movie? I definitely see why they left out the underaged gangbang of the female character in that film. So you never know what you're going to get when it comes to adaptations from Stephen King. And it is always the example that I cite. No film, not even the 2016 remake, Part 1, Chapter 1, was brave enough to introduce underage orgies or celestial turtles. So that's just the way it is. And I got to agree with you, Cody. Brain Scan is underrated. I think it's a movie that I didn't watch until maybe about 5 years ago, honestly. And for those of you who don't know, this movie came out in like the late 80s, the early 90s. And it kind of incorporates video games into horror and virtual reality and things of that nature. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's really good. It took me a long time to be a horror fan to check that movie out. James says, I think if they remake Graveyard Shift, it'll turn out better than the original. Potentially. It really just depends on who they attach to the project. But I'm excited for Pet Sematary. I'll be honest with you. I think that, in the same way that we're seeing a slasher resurgence because we saw what Halloween was capable of, you're gonna see a lot of Stephen King stuff too. Because it is now one of the most successful horror films of all time. And, for better or for worse, whether you like the original TV series better or made-for-TV 2-part series better, if you like this new one better, whatever you think, at the end of the day, it's good for horror whenever these movies make this kind of box office and draw attention to the franchise, draw attention to the genre. So I'm down with it. Frustrated says, one Stephen King film that should never get remade because it was perfect the first time around, Storm of the Century. Yeah, I'll have to agree with you on that. And I haven't heard anyone even broach the topic. I've heard no one say anything about trying to do that one over again. So, they may have the same exact mindset you do. James says, I want to bury a goldfish in Pet Semetary's cursed ground to see what happens. You know what? I think it'd still be fairly defenseless. I don't know. Maybe you could cross that over into a Jaws thing. I don't know. Or Piranha probably, because that sounds a little bit cheesy. But hey, I'm not above the cheese. When it comes to horror, I'll check it out. So I'm going to go ahead and cue another one up here. And this is one that a lot of people are really excited about. And myself included. The same way that I'm excited to see Ari Aster's new film, Midsommar, based on the merit of Hereditary, I'm very excited to see Us, based on the merit of Get Out. This is Jordan Peele's next project, and look, here's the thing. I know a lot of people get caught up in this culture war of, SJWs and, whatever. I could care less about that. The movie itself, I speak of Get Out, was just amazing. It really was. It was a new concept in a lot of ways. It did speak to a lot of social issues. I think maybe some people saw a little bit too much in there that, I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know if it was there or not. But regardless of the politics behind the movie was amazing. And it's like Brian said, the trailer for Us, holy shit. I'm really digging the trailer. I like the use of I got 5 on it in the trailer, going at the beginning from just the regular song, which is a bit of a more of an upbeat type thing, and then the song itself, along with the trailer, evolves into something more sinister. Loved how they did that. Jordan Peele is a guy that I think, 5 to 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about is a horror legend when it comes to his directing. I think you're going to be seeing Jordan Peele years down the road the way people see John Carpenter or Wes Craven now. I think that is going to happen because, and I don't know what it is, but with people in comedy, like Jordan Peele, like Danny McBride, getting into the horror genre and breathing new life into it has taken me by storm because, you just really, when you think about the horror genre, there are certain names that come to your mind, whether it be directors, whether it be writers, whether it be composers, whether, whatever. When you're seeing people go outside their genre and delivering to you things that are invigorating to this new genre, it really makes me smile. Because, sometimes it does take a fresh pair of eyes to introduce something new that, maybe you didn't see things this way. Maybe this is a new way to approach horror. Maybe this is a new way to approach tension building. So a little blurb I have here about Us. It says, arguably the most anticipated film of the first quarter, Jordan Peele's sophomore effort promises to bring the horror. So it says, Us follows a family's vacation gone wrong when uninvited visitors arrive. What begins as a seeming home invasion film turns into something more with Peele's The Tethered, a terrifying doppelgangers of the family. So they write, this one looks intense and new monster mythology potential is always a plus. Isn't it? Isn't it? So this one is March 15th, guys. I'm definitely going to be checking it out. No doubt. So let's see here. Brian says horror needs a little bit of humor. Apparently it does. Apparently it does. And I'll tell you, we were just talking about horror comedy movies earlier. I've been a big fan of horror comedy movies or the stuff that borders on campy for a while. Really love that stuff. So, maybe it was a really good idea to take the mind of someone who is more used to creating humor and say, okay, put that mind, put that comedic genius to another genre and see if you can, stay to that level. And people like Jordan Peele and Danny McBride are showing it's not only possible, it's fantastic. Cody says, I'm hoping we'll get a sequel to You're Next. I'll be honest with you. I really enjoyed that film. I went and saw it in the theaters. I walked in, and I always try to go in with a clean slate. Like, I'm not going to let any reviews that I've seen bother me if they're negative or positive. I'm not going to let it affect my viewing. Same with trailers. I'm just going to go in. I know what I'm getting in for, but I'm going to go in with an open mind. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was in a bad mood or if I was having a bad day or something, but I went into You're Next kind of negative. I honestly, I didn't really want to watch it once I got there, but I already paid for the tickets. So I go in and I watched it, and I ended up leaving in a completely different mood. The movie, I thought, was very well done, and, horror, especially back in the 80s, a lot of people wanted to say that, these horror movies, these slasher movies were, making women victims, and I couldn't disagree more. And Your Next is another great example of how the horror genre is really, honestly, like, empowering to women. So I never understood where people would look at a slasher film and say, this is sexist towards women. It's 9 times out of 10, the women are the ones who are the strongest to overcome and, leave the story as a survivor. Frustrated says, as a child, my older sister could only go to the movies if she took me. My mom's idea of her not wanting to see one of these Leprechaun movies, we went to see Leprechaun. Yeah, man, at like 4 or 5. Yeah, I was introduced to horror at a young age too, and that's another thing that people a lot of times throw out about the horror genre. One of the things that kind of gives it a bad name is you always have people saying that kids shouldn't be seeing this stuff. And hey, if you don't want your kids to see that kind of stuff, I have nothing bad to say about you. You're the parent. But I think it is the parents, it falls on the parents to do that. I don't think we should really be, excuse me, I don't think we should be like censoring what adults see. If you're a parent and you don't want your kid to see it, be a parent. Don't let them see it. But, I, snuck around, obviously. And I did check out some horror stuff. And honestly, my parents weren't really too strict when it came to certain horror. But, I turned out fine. I've only killed 2 people. So, I don't understand what the big deal is. Brian says, my dad used to love watching me get scared. Yeah, my parents were kind of the same way. They would watch certain things around me, I think, interestingly enough, my parents, sometimes they would get a little, flustered with the gore and change the channel. But I'll tell you, more often than not, it was when a tit slipped out. It was, oh, God, no, we can't let him see a tit. Hey, that guy's getting gutted. Check it out. But, that's just how it is. Let's see. James says, with the exception of Ash Williams, Leprechaun 2, or Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I find it hard to think of any main male characters in horror movies as the protagonist. Ash is definitely the one that comes to mind, I think, more often than anything else. But there are some out there. It's just definitely more so geared towards, and, that's where the term Scream Queen comes from. I mean, there are some out there. If you look in films like Darkness Falls or perhaps The Burning, those movies have male protagonists. There's a good bit of them out there, but they definitely don't outweigh female protagonists in the horror genre, especially slasher. So, with that said, I'm ready for Jordan Peele's next movie. I compared this one to Midsommar. Like I said earlier, Hereditary was great. So, in turn, Get Out was great. So I'm looking forward to not only Jordan Peele, but Ari Aster's next horror film. So, speaking of, we kind of brought this up earlier, but we're going to be talking about this one as well. This is one that I can already go ahead and tell you, this one's going to bring in the bucks. It, Chapter 2. And we were just talking about this earlier. Let's see here. James says, Brand's comment on killing 2 people was mad slept on. You know what? Thank you, James. Thank you for picking that one out. I was hoping that one didn't just go by the wayside. So we're talking now about It Chapter 2. And this is another one that I am extremely, extremely excited to check out. Now, yes, I was a bit critical of the movie they made 3 years ago, It Chapter 1. I'll admit it, I was a bit critical of it. I wasn't critical of the whole movie overall. I think I was more so critical of Bill Skarsgård's performance as Pennywise. And, look, here's the thing. Whenever you are remaking a movie, whenever you're taking a film that is beloved by people and you're turning it into something new, you're going to remake it, you're going to make it fresh, you're going to reboot it, you're going to reignite it, whatever term you want to use, it's always difficult. But it is that much more difficult when there is a beloved actor in one of these roles. When it comes to certain films, it's the director. But in It, how difficult is it to live up to Tim Curry? Almost impossible. Almost impossible. So here's the thing. I watched It Chapter 1. The film overall, I thought, was pretty good. I'm not saying the movie didn't deserve the box office it got, by any means, because I'm excited for that. Like I said, it's great for horror. It didn't click for me the way it did for several others. And after a lot of soul searching, I discovered my main issue was Bill Skarsgård's performance as Pennywise. And here's the thing. Like I said, it's impossible to live up to Tim Curry's performance. It's legendary, pun intended. And, I hate to be one of these people that just knocks it. So I think after a little bit more soul searching, I kind of like the movie a little bit more. Just because I think I went into it with the wrong idea. It's a different Pennywise. It's good now in retrospect that I look at it that we're not getting another Tim Curry performance. Because then it would just be, what would be the point of doing it? It's new, it's different, it's fresh. I'm on board with it now. It took a little work. For me to get on board with it. But I'm on board with It Chapter 2. I'm ready to check it out. And the release date has been set for September the 6th. Month and change before Halloween. So, good way to introduce the season. So, I got a little blurb about this one too. It says, the highly anticipated conclusion to 2017's It is finally here. Set 27 years after the events of the first film, most of the Losers Club have grown up and moved out of Derry. But the return of It has them returning to fulfill their promise to finish it once and for all. The young cast of the Losers Club returns in flashback form, while the adult Losers Club is played by Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, who you guys probably have seen in Split, and we'll talk about here in a little bit, Glass, Jay Ryan, Bill Hader, James Ranson, Andy Bean, Isaiah Mustafa. So, yeah, September 6th, guys. I'm interested to see how they're going to end this one. You taking off, James? Thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate it. Bill Hader. You have a problem with Bill? You have a problem with Alpha 5, James? Come on. Don't be that way. Yeah. And I agree with you, Cody. That's what remakes and reboots should be. They shouldn't be shot-for-shot remakes. They should be something that takes the original idea, just the bare-bones premise, and they make it their own. And that's why, I like films like I had mentioned earlier, the 1990 Night of the Living Dead or the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because they took the idea, they did something a little slightly different, little tweaks and things here. The movies are not shot-for-shot remakes by any means. I know, 58th mention of the Halloween franchise, but here the fuck goes. I know Rob Zombie's Halloween Gets Hell, but I thought the first one was pretty well done. especially after the first 40 minutes when it kind of gets into what the original one was. And I can kind of appreciate some of the backstory to a degree. Maybe it takes away from some things, but I thought it was done pretty well. So yeah, It Chapter 2. I'm definitely going to be checking this one out. It's a movie that I think it's going to do very well if the last one is any indication. And, you know, I have a sneaking suspicion that this film is going to be better in a lot of ways than the other one was. Because I thought that the conclusion to it in the old miniseries was very well done. So, yeah, with that said, we just mentioned this one briefly years ago. Close to 20 at this point, it may be, matter of fact. Well, you know, close to 20 years ago, we got a little film starring Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis called Unbreakable. And I thought it was really good. Years later, I guess it was about, a year or two ago, we got an unsuspecting sequel called Split. And guys, we are going to get what I assume is the conclusion to this trilogy. We're talking about Glass, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what? This is another one that, let me just tell you, I loved Unbreakable. I really did. I thought Unbreakable was a fantastic film. It's another one of those films where it's just like Bruce Willis, love his work. Sam Jackson, love his work. I thought that the premise was something different. You know, M. Night Shyamalan's hit or miss. It is the way it is. But I'm more so a fan than not. I like Devil. I like what is it? The Sixth Sense was okay. I like some of the films most people didn't. Like The Village. I thought The Village was good. Cody, you haven't seen Unbreakable, man. You gotta check out Unbreakable. And if you haven't seen Split, check out Split too. I would suggest it. But this is what we got coming out, man. Glass, and it's gonna be coming out a week from today. Matter of fact, on January 18th. Now we have already got some early reviews, and they're not good. I'll just be honest with you. Oh, that's awesome. Now my wife is in here saying, "Hey, I just called you. I figured I'd find you in here." Laughing, crying emojis. Well, welcome to the stream. I guess that's why I didn't pick up. I had my phone on silent. My bad. Boo, that movie's whack. Get out of here. Get out of here. You haven't even seen it yet. You don't know. So, essentially what we're looking at here, and yeah, you know what? We've got some reviews. They're not all good. Matter of fact, most of the reviews that we're getting are pretty poor. But with that in mind, and this is coming from someone who runs a channel where I put a lot of time and effort and energy into reviewing films. Never take one review and go into a movie thinking, "Oh, this is crap," or just throw it off and you know, say, "You know, I'm not even going to check this out because these reviews said this, or Rotten Tomatoes said this, or, you know, what have you." Always go into a movie that you want to see with an open mind and decide for yourself. So, you know, could the movie be bad? Yeah, sure. We've seen a lot of movies that ended up not being bad, or ended up being bad, that we thought were going to be fantastic. So yeah, it's possible. It's possible. But with that said, I don't think anyone should be looking at these reviews that are coming out now as like absolute definitive evidence to not go see this film. Because I'm definitely going to check it out. My wife says it's garbage. She must be Nostradamus because she hasn't seen it yet, because it's not out yet. But yeah, I'm going to check it out. And like I said, what is it? 1 week from today, January the 18th, this one's going to be released to the public. So yeah, quick little blurb here that was written about this one. 2 years after M. Night Shyamalan surprised audiences with the tease of Unbreakables, David Dunn, a.k.a. Bruce Willis, at the end of Split. And yes, it was. Very much so a surprise. He brings the unwitting superhero back in a major way by pitting him against not just former foe Mr. Glass, Samuel L. Jackson, but Split's Kevin Wendell Crumb, a.k.a. James McAvoy as well. Anya Taylor-Joy's Casey Cook is going to be returning to the film as well. So, you know what? I'm down for it. Like I said, when it comes to M. Night Shyamalan, it's hit or miss. You never know. Frustrated says, Brand's wife, you sadden me. You know what? Here's the thing. There's certain... We have a very different opinion on movies in general. I recall us having a discussion on Scream where she says that it's really not that good. She's even said it was garbage before. And I literally almost had a heart attack. It was one of those moments where you just look at your significant other and you go, you know what? I don't even know who you are anymore. Brian says still waiting on Signs 2. Oh, God. If I see Signs 2, I'm going to swing away. Now Packers backs off and says, oh, my God, I was joking about that. Sure you were. Sure you were. So, yeah, 1 week from today, Glass is going to be hitting theaters. And I do have one more that I really want to discuss before I just kind of go through a laundry list of a few others that I guess are honorable mentions. So the last one that I really wanted to discuss is, it is another sequel. I'm not gonna bullshit you out there about it, but it's one that we've been waiting for a long time. I honestly never thought that I would see a sequel to this film. It is Rob Zombie's 3 from Hell. So, for those uninitiated, the original, this is a third film in this series. The original was House of a Thousand Corpses, which is a very odd, especially for its time, which, I mean, Rob Zombie, I guess you can kind of figure, yeah, odd. Very odd, very different film. I enjoyed it. I thought the soundtrack on it was really well done. I thought the film was different. And I enjoyed it enough to where I did check out the sequel. The sequel, The Devil's Rejects, is, in my opinion, Rob Zombie's absolute best film. Hands down, no questions asked. The ending to The Devil's Rejects is one of the best endings I've ever seen in the history of the entire horror genre. And as you can see, Packers even agrees that that this is going to be awesome. And I see that Cody agrees as well. Frustrated says, Bran, you need to make her watch Unbreakable. She did sit down and watch Split, but she wasn't very excited by the ending like I was because she had never seen Unbreakable. She's not the only one. My mom is actually the same way. I couldn't convince her to watch Split because she hated Unbreakable. But getting back on to 3 from Hell, this is something that I never thought we were going to get a sequel to. I speak about the ending of The Devil's Rejects and the way that ended. These characters were never really thought of as like supernatural entities or, you know, your Jasons or Michaels that could get back up from the way that they went out at the end of that movie. So I never really thought we were going to get anything like that. But apparently we are. Frustrated says, so naturally you disowned your mother, right? We're completely different, my mother and I, on movies. But I got a little blurb here from 3 from Hell. And by the way, this one doesn't have an official release date yet, but it is expected to arrive in theaters in 2009. I believe the movie's already finished filming. So, you know, unless we have a big debacle like we had with the original, then this film will be hitting theaters this year. So it says, this highly anticipated follow-up to The Devil's Rejects is going to be a very different experience. While still reuniting fans with the surviving members of the Firefly clan, do we really need to know anything else? Take my money now, please. And yeah, I'll tell you, I'd be 100% fine with this film being completely different, a 180 from The Devil's Rejects. And I'll tell you why. The Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses, unless you're a fan, you may not, unless you pay close attention, unless you really are just there for the ride, you may not even know it's a damn sequel. These movies are completely different in tone, in cinematography, in damn near every way you can measure and look at a film. These movies are different. The only thing that's similar are the characters, and not all of them. Only 3 or 4. So if Rob does the same thing in this one, and it's different from Devil's Rejects, it's different from House of a Thousand Corpses, I'm going to be proud of Rob Zombie. As long as the movie's good, I'm going to be proud of him for giving us a trilogy where every single movie is a different experience. And that is hard as hell to do. That is very difficult to do. Um, says Cody says it'll be better than 31 for sure. You know, I thought 31 was okay. I liked it better than Lords of Salem. Lords of Salem was one of those films that it was a slow burn, and I'm waiting for it to hit some big epic moment, and it really never came. I thought that it had some pretty good tension in it. I thought that it was a decent psychological thriller, but it wasn't really what I was looking for from a Rob Zombie film. Now, 31, I'm going to tell you the one thing that redeems 31, and that is the final. And, you know, I can't remember the guy. His real name is Richard something. I don't remember his name. I don't remember his character's name from the film. But he was the final, opponent, so to speak, in that film. The last person they run across in order to survive the night. That was a good character. If you don't know what I'm talking about, he was in another Rob Zombie film, which, go figure that. He kind of uses the same guys all the time. He was the guy in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 in the car wreck at the beginning of the film, the ambulance, who just yells fuck for like 5 minutes. So watching that, you wouldn't expect him to put on a really good performance. But holy shit, it's amazing. That character alone makes the movie worth watching. The movie itself is probably not the greatest, but that character is really good. And like Brian says, he says, I struggle with Zombie. He's hit or miss. I'll admit that. If you look at... House of a Thousand Corpses I thought was well done, but it's not a fantastic movie or anything like that. The Devil's Rejects, on the other hand, is great. His Halloween remake I thought was well done. The sequel to that, other than Danielle Harris's death scene, not so much. And I'll tell you why I single that scene out is because it's not, in a genre that is filled with death, it's not often that the director and the actors make you feel one of the deaths. Make you emotionally connect to these characters. And I think he did a good job of that. Other than that, I'm not a really big fan of the film. Myers walks around without a mask half the movie. He's got a big beard. He speaks. Whatever. But, 31, Lords of Salem, he's hit or miss. He's kind of like M. Night Shyamalan, in my opinion. With that said, I'm anticipating this one. No official release date yet. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna check this one out. I don't give a damn when it comes out, how it comes out. I'm gonna be there to check it out. So that's all the big movies that I really wanted to go over in depth. Although there is a bit of a list here that I have that I was just gonna read through really quickly of some other horror movies that are coming out this year that are worth checking out. Escape Room has already come out. I really won't cover that too much. I haven't seen it yet, but I do want to. A lot of people have said that it's kind of like a PG version of Saw. Which, I mean, I guess we'll see. Also, we do have The Final Wish coming out January 24th. It's going to be co-written by Jeffrey Riddick of Final Destination, based on his story The Final Wish. Stars Lynn Shay. From the, what all was she been in? The Nightmare on Elm Street films, and what was it? The Conjuring, I believe she was in, or was it? I don't know. I get those. Was it Insidious? Might have been Insidious. So Tony Todd's going to be in it. Who if you're here, you probably already know who that is. Spencer Locke, Melissa Bologna. Not really sure who that is. We got a remake of Jacob's Ladder. Yeah. No release date on that, but holy hell. I've been hearing February 1st, but I haven't heard anything concrete yet. But it says Jacob's Ladder is supposed to honor the spirit and concept of the original while telling a different story. So I'm thinking it's going to be very different from what we may thought we would see from a Jacob's Ladder remake. We have Piercing coming out on February 1st. Says, let's see here. It's actually the follow-up to Nicholas. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his last name. Pesse. So it'll be the follow-up, not the sequel, but a follow-up to The Eyes of My Mother, which I haven't seen all of that. But what I've seen, and I really do need to finish it, it was pretty interesting. We have The Prodigy on February the 8th. It actually has Taylor Schilling, who most of you will probably recognize from Orange is the New Black. Let's see, we have Saint Agatha coming out on February the 8th. It's the latest by Darren Lynn Bousman, who you'll probably remember from Saw 2, 3, 4, and Repo, the Genetic Opera. If you haven't seen that movie, check it out. It's actually really good. It says it's a period horror film set in the 1950s, follows a pregnant, unwed woman seeking shelter at an isolated convent. So that one might be pretty cool. I'm going to check that one out as well. March 1st, we have Climax. I have a little blurb here about this one. It says, on paper, this plot doesn't exactly sound like horror. A group of dancers gather together in an empty school building to rehearse and cut loose, but someone has spiked their sangria with LSD, and their night descends into a hallucinatory nightmare. So, you know, that may be interesting to check out. We got one is going to be coming out on January 31st on DirecTV, but it's going to be hitting theaters on March 1st. It's called The Hole in the Ground. It's a Sundance film. It says the Irish horror films, let's see, stars, and it's an Irish movie, Irish people. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name because I've butchered English names in this stream. But she's going to be playing a mother attempting to build a new life for her and her son in a rural home at the edge of a forest that happens to have a massive sinkhole. So yeah, that one may be interesting. Also, I think I won't dig into this one too much. Hellboy is going to be coming out on April 12th. You know, a lot of people talking about that one and how it's, you know, a little different than what we've seen from the past few Hellboy movies. It's a bit of a remake. Reboot, I should say. Also, The Curse of La Lorna is going to be coming out on April 19th. This one is kind of like a movie about the old folk tale of the weeping woman. You know, the ghost of a woman who's lost her child or children. So, you know, could be interesting. A bit of an urban legend feel to that one. We got Brightburn coming out on May 24th. Kind of like a horror version of Superman, from what I'm gathering of that one. We got Godzilla, King of the Monsters, coming out on May 31st. So yeah, that you know, you don't really have to say much about that. I think we all know it's going to be directed by Michael Dougherty, who actually directed Krampus and Trick or Treat. So I'm looking forward to that one. We also have a Grudge reboot. It's going to be coming out the same day as Child's Play, June 21st. We have 47 Meters Down, Uncaged. Another shark flick. That one's going to be coming out on June the 28th. We have Annabelle 3, which doesn't actually have a title yet. That's just what I'm calling it. That's going to be July 3rd, the day before Independence Day. I'm not a huge fan of the Conjuring series. I think they're okay. The Annabelle spinoffs haven't really done it for me. But I guess we'll see. We've got The New Mutants coming out on August the 2nd. Says the film has gotten bumped back so many times it's plausible to happen again, so don't take my word on that. That's just what it is right now. It says, following a group of young mutants discovering their powers while held at a secret facility against their will, initial trailers indicate this would be a straight-up horror take to the superhero story. You know, more so like X-Men, I would suppose. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is going to be dropping August the 9th. It's going to be produced by Guillermo del Toro, so that might be interesting. Let's see, what else do we have here? You know, if you're a 90s kid like me, born in the late 80s, grew up in the 90s, you're probably familiar with a little show called Are You Afraid of the Dark? And it's going to get its own movie, October the 11th, right around Halloween season. You know what? Goosebumps has movies now. Why the hell not let Are You Afraid of the Dark get a crack at it now? It says the beloved Nickelodeon 90s anthology show that featured a group of teens gathered around a campfire to tell other scary stories is getting a feature film adaptation, but plot details are scarce as of now, other than it'll be a completely original story. So yeah, it's written by the same guy who wrote Disturbia, DJ Caruso. So, you know what? It's definitely something to check out. Also, we got In the Tall Grass. No release date yet. It just says late 2019, which is it's going to be based on a Stephen King novella. Always interesting to hear that. And we've got a couple of other ones coming out this year with no release date as of yet. Body at Brighton Rock, Depraved, Eli, which it's going to be released to Netflix. Brought to us by the guy who directed Citadel and Sinister 2. Let's see what else. We got The Lighthouse, which is a follow-up to The Witch. Not a sequel, but a follow-up by Robert Eggers. It's another period piece set in 1890. I believe Willem Dafoe is going to be a part of that. Robert Pattinson. And also we have Rabid. It's going to be coming out. It's actually a remake of David Cronenberg's 1977 Rabid. So yeah, we've got a lot to look forward to in the way of horror this year. So you know what, guys? I think that's about gonna wrap it up. I wanna thank everyone for joining me here in the live stream. I want to thank everyone who's going to watch this later on, because I know having these live streams earlier in the day, it's hard to get to, but it's really the best time for me to do them. So yeah, thanks for everyone who came by. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, if you're watching live or if you watch later, if you enjoyed this video, leave me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Drop me a comment if you're watching later on. The people here in the live chat are already commenting. I appreciate them for doing that. But if you're watching later on, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about some of these movies coming out. And definitely check down below in the description section where you can support Bloody Breakdown on Patreon by downloading the Honey web browser add-on, checking out our Amazon wish list, or just follow us on Twitter or Instagram or join the Facebook group. So yeah, I guess that's going to be about it, guys. I want to thank everyone for joining me once again. You guys are awesome. I appreciate the continued support. No problem, Cody. Yeah, updates all around. And I'm going to be doing some gaming streams here soon. Probably more Friday the 13th. May end up digging my claws into Resident Evil Biohazard. See what that's all about. A new episode of Bloody Breakdown is in the works. If you guys haven't heard, I'm going to be covering 1988's Child's Play. Figure it's the best time to do it. It seems to be a hot topic in the horror community here. Thanks, Frustrated. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys like the updates that I'm giving you all. It's something that I feel really good about. I love the horror genre, and people who like it, hey, you guys are a friend of mine. Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah, before I go, really quickly, Blumhouse has the rights to that one now. I know it's been in a little bit of developmental hell, as they say, but you may be talking about the game, but yeah, I do have the first like 4 of those that I probably could stream as well. So yeah, that might not be a bad idea. Thanks, Frustrated. But as far as the movie goes, yeah, it's still happening. Nothing popped up in my research for 2019 horror, so I don't know what's happening with it. Maybe it's still in developmental hell, but I'd love to see the movie come to fruition. But yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, I may play a couple of the games here on the live stream as well. So yeah, guys, I think that's gonna be about it. Once again, thank you all for joining me. And yeah, with that said, Bran here from Bloody Breakdown, thanking you all, and definitely come back and see what we got coming and happening in the new year. So yeah, we'll catch you all next time.